Mike Huckabee is doing a tour for his new book, and because he wants to be president. So listen to the new thing that he's outraged about today.
And you went from small-town America, Midwest, you went to the center, the pulse of the political class. Did you go through any culture shock, or did you know what you were in for?
Absolutely a cultural shock, Jan, and that's part of what I really get into at the very beginning of the book, and I explain how this book came about. 6.5 years of traveling to New York every week to work. I mean, it's one thing to go as a guest, a visitor, a tourist. If you go to work and you're in that sort of, I guess, hotbed of the New York culture for a while, for someone like me, I thought, man, this is a different planet. And I came more and more to realize that the cultural divide is significant. And just a small example. One of the chapters is the culture of crude. I was shocked that you go into New York.
It's ethanol here,
meeting.
by the way. It's
yeah, but
yes,
it's one of those things where in a business meeting that you might have in the South or in the Midwest, there in Iowa, you would not have people who would just throw the F-bomb and use gratuitous profanity in a professional setting.
Right.
In New York, not only do the men do it, but the women do it. And, you just are looking around and saying, my gosh, this is worse than locker room talk. This would be considered totally inappropriate to say these things in front of a woman, and for a woman to say them in a professional setting, we would only assume that this is a very, as we would say in the South, that's just trashy.
No, that is just embarrassing. Your entire point was embarrassing. I'm not offended by women cursing. I'm offended by the fact that you were offended by women cursing. How about that? And I guess it's just because I'm a heathen New Yorker, born and raised in New York right now. So how could I, such an immoral person, maybe a infidel, let's call me, how could I understand such a person of high moral character and class like Mike Huckabee? I know, Mike, you're just so much better than us in the heartland of the country. See, that is what Mike Huckabee thinks about when he thinks about morality, is what you just heard right there. Morality to Mike Huckabee is don't curse, respect tradition, pretend that bodily functions aren't real, go to church, pray to Jesus, oppose gay marriage, women know your role in society, don't rock the boat or question the status quo. These are all the things that Mike Huckabee thinks about when he thinks about being virtuous and being moral and standing up for the right things. And this is why, honestly, he's a joke of a person. He's a shell of a human being. He deeply wants to be taken seriously as a political player, but he's a throwback to 1950s-style anti-intellectualism. He's a throwback to that leave it to Beaver mentality. See, what Mike Huckabee needs to understand, and he never will, is that real morality is stopping hunger and starvation, stopping extreme poverty, preventing medical bankruptcies, standing up and being allowed in your fight against wars, like the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, which were a mistake and killed minimum hundreds of thousands of civilians. But no, Mike Huckabee was cheerleading those things, and he's outraged by women cursing and stuff like that because in Mike's mind, it breaks tradition. When something breaks tradition and the social order that his mommy and daddy indoctrinated into him, that's when he's like, I can't believe this, and he gets his panties all in a bunch. It really shows that he's just not a bright dude, that he's not all there. Because it speaks to your character as a human being when you never stop to question the things that were put into your mind, the propaganda from your own culture, the indoctrination in your own family. Like, when you hit a point, you have to start thinking, is Santa real? Well, is Jesus real? Is the Easter Bunny real? Why is it that men and women shouldn't get married? Is it just because of this book? Well, there's a lot of other crazy stuff in this book, so why should I take that seriously? Maybe we should focus on things that make more sense, like instead of abiding by ancient desert myths, maybe we should abide by the idea that we should treat other people as we would like to be treated, so maybe equality under the law, and maybe gays should be able to get married. But Mike Huckabee, there he is, outraged by women cursing, but not outraged by CIA torture. He's totally fine with that. Again, speaks to his how intellectual he is and his moral character, his true moral character. He's outraged by women cursing, but he's not outraged by the death penalty, which he oversaw over a dozen people being killed. He's not outraged by the attack on evolution in science class, so he's pro-indoctrination because it's an indoctrination into his belief system of Christianity. And of course, again, he's not outraged by the war in Iraq, but he is outraged by women cursing. So there you have Mike Huckabee in a nutshell. He's a sad, sad person who's a product of the biases of his own culture and his own religion and his own time, which is why he will never be president.